Hello, my name is Chris Schnee, and I write science fiction and fantasy. I have a fantasy story for you called Evan's Carnival. Here goes. Maki the tailor slapped his beer down on the tavern table and glared at Oro. "You take that back." Oro, the blacksmith, said, "Your dice are crooked." "They're not mine. If you want to pick fights, join the army and kill Calevians. Then we won't have to see your ugly face." Oro shoved Maki, knocking over his mug. Maki pushed back. "Hey, take it outside," said the barkeep. They went out. It was dark in the stinky alley. Only muffled barroom singing broke the evening's quiet once the door closed. Maki shivered in the cold air and he put up his fists. Oro took a wobbly fighting stance too, but looked over Maki's shoulders. "What in heaven is that?" "I'm not falling for that." Oro lowered his hands. "No, seriously, you pinprick, it's glowing." A shadow had appeared in front of Maki. He risked a backward glance. At the dead end behind him, a ring of violet light had appeared. Beyond it was a cloudy, flickering view of a street made of gold. "Some wizard thing?" said Oro. "No, stupid, it's... He remembered an old story, and his eyes went wide. He turned and threw himself into the portal. The legend flashed through his mind as he fell through hazy space. It was said that now and then the gods randomly opened a doorway to heaven. The portal was a gift, a chance for mortals to spend one glorious night in the divine realm from which all blessings and curses came. A chance at fame and fortune and magic. And if the story were even half true, lovers beyond compare. Gravity spun. He landed on a hard metal floor. Seconds later, Oro crashed on top of him. Maki crawled free, cursing and kicking, but they both shut up when they saw where they were. The ground was solid gold, a square the width of the local count's manor back home. And it was only one square of a chessboard where half the others were massive sapphires. Oro crouched and felt the ground. Real gold? What is this, anyway? A magic market? Tents of impossibly clean, fine cloth stood like a festive camp all around them. "Haven't you heard?" said Maki. "This is heaven, the divine carnival." "Indeed it is, mortals," said a glowing man of shifting colors and breeze-stirred robes. "You are very lucky, privileged to see the sights of the divine and experience our hospitality. May I take your names?" Oro said, "Yeah, Wait," said Maki. "You can't steal our names or whatever. I'll tell you our names." He did. The spirit chuckled. "Enjoy the carnival. You might last a while. Be advised that leaving the fairgrounds is strictly forbidden, except to go home the way you entered." The purple portal floated where they'd come in, that it was more like a marker post than a door from this side. A stomping lizard creature trod right through it like an illusion and passed them by. When Maki looked back, their greeter was gone. Maki wobbled on his feet and said, "The legend said they have everything here." Oro said, "You treated that guy like the fair folk or something." "Hey, if I get to be on a first-name basis with any gods, maybe I'll start trusting them then." Oro turned around, bewildered by the flower-scented breeze on unfamiliar ground. He started toward a random tent. Maki followed, worried somebody would mug them or do something weird if they split up. He gaped at what was not a shot display, but a whole curtained room full of gold. The creature tending it looked like a djinn. Maki had really seen one once in a parade. This one had smoke for a lower body and wore bangles on its brawny arms and pointed ears. "Mortals, help yourselves!" "What, really?" said Maki. Oro needed no explanation. He picked up a handful of coins and grunted as most slipped through his fingers. "Heavy?" "Indeed," said the djinn, grinning. "For your kind, wealth is a burden. These coins weigh far more here than they will in your world, but take what you will." "What's the catch?" said Maki. "Only the weight." He took a coin, though it felt like a brick. He ran his thumb along a seal depicting the colossal step pyramid he dimly saw in the distance. "A palace of the gods. Can we visit?" "The eternal citadel of wisdom is outside the fairgrounds." Oro said, "Who cares about that?" He filled his pockets, though he looked weighed down by just a few dozen coins. The djinn suggested, "Do you want to splash and play in the shiny gold?" Indeed, there was enough to treat it like a tub. Maki slipped the coin into the money pouch on his belt like he was stealing it, then took a heavy handful. "Maybe later. There's more to see. Thanks." He walked toward the pyramid and began to realize the huge scale of the plaza. The distant building had to be taller than any palace or wizard tower he'd ever heard of. Oro whistled as he kept pace. That sky! Overhead gleamed more stars than Maki had ever seen, brighter, more colorful. Something obscured them with vast wings as it passed. Other creatures flitted closer by, seeming to watch the ground-bound visitors. Maki's gaze drifted down to the tents scattered around them, and to the spirits or gods starting to gather. One of them was a shapely woman whose robes fluttered alluringly as she drifted just above the gemstone floor. "Why, hello, mortals. You're here early." Maki blushed and said, "Best thing I've seen here yet." "I saw her first," Uro said. She giggled. "Ah, human lusts. I smelled the swill in your breath. Perhaps you'd like to taste the wine of heaven instead. Right this way." They followed her toward a pavilion of crimson wood adorned with golden dragon heads. In there it was all incense and pillows and bowls of fruit and spirits with glittering skin. Maki stared as one of the residents sauntered toward him with a diamond goblet. "You don't want to do that," said a man with skin like coal and hot iron. Maki barely noticed him. The man added, "You'll be spoiled for any mortal lovers and likely end up the father of some strange spirit-touched brat you'll have to raise. Or maybe mother. Wouldn't be the first time." Maki blinked. "Who are you?" "Adamantus, the god of smithing. Have you not heard of me? I sense you're a metal worker." "That's Oro over there, groping the serving girls." "Then drag him out to get my blessing before he's distracted all night." The robed woman who'd been tempting them pouted at Maki. "Don't listen to that faker." The sweet incense helped clear Maki's head, though it also made him want to stay. But he tapped Oro on the shoulder and said, "Smithing god wants to see you." Oro paled, looking back at the man tapping one iron boot while standing just outside. "My job. Sorry, gals, but I've got to take this." He hurried up off the couch he'd been reclining on, then crouched in the doorway. "Oh, hi Marin, is it really you?" Maki said, "He said his name's Adamantus, I think?" Adamantus sighed like a bellows. "I'm not the Lord of Andals, but I serve him. If you offer prayers directly to me for a month, I will teach you the secret of melting iron like bronze." "Is that even allowed?" said the jilted love goddess, or whatever she really was. "Wouldn't want to make the Ministry of Crafts mad." "Only if you tell, you bower spirit." She smiled wickedly. "I might just have to." The smith god looked desperate. "Look, mortal, do the prayers and I'll bless your work however the ministry lets me do it." Oro said, "Sure, yes, O mighty guardian of forges." The boudoir owner said, "Now can I have these two without interruptions?" Maki took another look into the pavilion. Certainly tempting, but if he went in he'd miss everything else for one night's fun. He grabbed Oro's sleeve and tugged him along, though the smith complained, Maybe later, maybe later." While they were arguing, a violet window opened in midair. Out fell a blonde woman in a rough, run-shouldered dress with a sash in the Eastern style. Maki paused. This was no god. "A filthy Calevian! Get out of here! You don't deserve heaven!" The woman was shocked. "Backstabbing Renivans, huh? Where is this?" She reached for a knife on her belt. "You're in heaven, damn it! Go back to your necromancy lab if you're going to send more skeletons to pillage our lands." Uro caught on and shook a fist at her too. "She's one of the Easterners? What's she doing here?" He said, "I make tackle blocks for ships. I have nothing to do with the war or the necromancers. You people are all a bunch of robbers." A green androgynous figure, made of whirling triangles, drifted close. "Oh good, more guests are finding the entrances. Let's see you fight." More triangle spirits came over, echoing it, "Fight! Fight!" They shoved the three mortals over to a rope-lined, raised stage lined with swords and maces, each one of them a work of art. With no time to eject, the Calevian woman got levitated into one corner. A spirit said, "Make the big man take her on. No, the scrawny one, to make it even." Maki felt tickled all over, and his body glowed briefly. Some spell lifted him off his feet and set him down in the arena opposite the woman. "Hey, what?" "We want to see some brawling, mortals. We'll heal both sides and give the winner a boon." The woman looked frightened of him. She tried to climb out, got yanked back in by magic, then grabbed a weapon and said, "I won't let you hurt me, barbarian." Maki also tried slipping under the ropes to escape, but the spirits jeered and shoved him back in. "Fight! Fight, mortals!" Uro cursed. They didn't stop him from climbing in. "You want to see a brawl? Leave her out of it." He yanked the sword out of the woman's hand and nudged her backward so that he could fight Maki. Maki stepped backward. "What?" "Grab a blade. Make this look good." Uro winked, then charged him. Maki grabbed a straight sword that gleamed red like firelight on copper. It weighed hardly anything. He'd never done more than play fight with a stick before, but Uro was swinging and coming at him. Maki sidestepped and waved the unfamiliar blade so that Uro had to dodge too. The burly smith swung overhand at him with an obvious wind-up. Maki jumped back, then jabbed. "Parry high," said Uro, swinging down again from too close. Maki desperately held his weapon sideways and the blade slid off. "Counter," said Uro, and Maki swung. Uro blocked the clumsy strike the same way and countered. They clashed their blades back and forth overhead. Sparks flew. The spirits jeered and the woman kept in one corner. They wanted entertainment, huh? Maki swung wildly and staggered, did it again, and got parried easily. Oro shoved him, making the spirits laugh. Maki said, "Left stab, incoming," and jabbed toward Oro's left. Oro parried the wrong way, and Maki's blade gashed his side. The smith swore and dropped his weapon, clutching the bleeding wound. "Oh, gods, I didn't mean to," said Maki. "Heal him." "Finish him off," said one. "More blood," called another. Cursing, Maki pointed his blade at Oro's throat and said, "Surrender." Oro swore back and said, "Okay, you win." It wasn't just the triangle ghosts watching now, but more figures in luminous robes or armor of thorns or glass. One of these flung a dot of blinding light at Oro so that his flesh melded and regrew with only a blood-stained gash in his shirt. "Healing's that easy," said Maki. He thought of hospitals where men lay in pain and infection, praying to the gods to heal them. Magical healers were always in short supply. "I want—" "A boon," said a cheerleading little god like a talking shrub. "What's your function, mortal?" "I'm a tailor." He turned toward Oro and shrugged apologetically. "I stab things for a living, technically." "Then I know just the gift," said a tiger with fur like starlight. It reared up onto the battle arena and, before Maki could dodge, touched it with one paw. Maki staggered. The base of his spine itched and stretched, growing heavy as he spouted a long, fluff-tipped feline tail. He sputtered in confusion, but his dying patron said, "Ah, lion! A fine tail for a tailor." Oro grabbed Maki, saying, "Let's get out of here." Maki feared what else they'd do to him. They managed to duck out from the arena ropes and reach the floor. He was surprised not to be yanked back. When he looked, he found the reason. The gods had already found some other mortals to drag in, saying, "Next contestants!" The woman fell into step beside them. What sort of prize was that? Maki felt his new tail bob and swish with each step. "I'm so honored." Oro said, "Thanks for winning, I guess." They hurried away from the din of the arena. Maki said, "It sounds like more people are finding these portals, blundering in from the real world to enjoy the gods' hospitality." Easterner woman said, "More like to be the gods' toys." "That's the most sensible thing I've heard here so far. Did you see that healing magic just now? If they're giving out gifts, I want that." Belatedly, he realized he'd kept hold of the sword he'd taken, and that Oro had snagged one as well. The woman said, "There's got to be a magic spirit around here, something that can grant that kind of power, I suppose, if we can put up with whatever it demands." "We? You should quit following us and go back to where you came from." "I don't even know how," she said. Oro said, "Same spot you appeared in. There was a sort of marker where we showed up. You can probably go back the same way." The woman sighed. "If you're not robbers personally, then you should come to Kaliva with me. Maybe you can use the same exit as me. Come to some civilized land." Maki had no desire to move to a city-state where necromancy was fair game. He said, "Have you looked for a god of making, what was it, sailcloth? What you do?" "Rigging," she said. The barbarian woman played with a golden dagger she'd pilfered from the arena. "I thought the gods didn't much care about us. Maybe that would have been better than whatever this is." "The old songs say heaven is beautiful," Maki said, admiring the starry sky and the distant towers and gardens beyond the plaza. "Hang your songs. I bet whatever is outside the spot is better. They're holding out on us." She strode right past tents offering regal robes and heady perfumes, and the men followed. There was a fence around this part of heaven. The plaza where mortals were invited was ringed with a barrier of writhing sapphire snakes. Oro's fist clenched. "We paid for the north wall to hold in the last invasion, and the gods ignored us." "Served you right," the foreign woman muttered. Maki ignored her. "Magic, or anything truly useful. Let's find something like that and leave again before somebody hurts us." They passed a tower of jade and feathers that made Maki vaguely uneasy. Then they found a bookseller's stall. This store wasn't too different from the one at home, except that everything was gilt-edged, gem-encrusted, or otherwise plainly better than honest mortal's work. He forced a smile and said, "These are amazing," to a man made out of folded paper. "Aren't they? Libraries are too few these days. Can you read?" "A little. I'd love to learn more and have some books on magic to read." "That's easy enough. Hold out your hands." Rarely, Maki did. The paperman's dry touch nicked his skin. It made him dizzy, light-headed. Oro steadied him. The book dealer said, "And now, can you read this?" He opened a tome that said, "And so, the first fortress was buried just beneath the southernmost point of—" "The first fortress is real?" said Maki, thinking of an old legend. The spirit snapped the book shut. "Why, yes. Are human memories so short?" Yes, they are. That's why books are so important, and why we'd appreciate a few." That folded paper face was hard to read, but the paperman seemed to smile. "One book each is all the Ministry of Knowledge allows me to give you. A mere glimpse of the higher truths. And if you would be worthy, swear to make a copy of any item you take, and give one copy away. Will it be the divine edition you give away, or your own handiwork? The man stroked a gorgeous leather book cover beside him. Oro gulped. You magically made him able to read good? I want that too. The woman stepped forward too. Certainly. Maki looked at his hands where the scribe god had drawn a few drops of blood with paper cuts and absorbed them into his fingers. The others winced as the god did the same to each of them. He said, A book on magic, please? Healing especially. I'd really like that. The paperman whirled through his collection and fetched Maki a book with a cover of hammered silver. This will do. Remember your oath if you take this. Himself as a scribe, copying books? Well, if he could read perfectly now, he could handle copying these pages. He took the book and said, Thank you. The woman said, How about something about the gods themselves? Oro asked, Could I get a book about farming? Not smithing, said Maki. I know smithing well enough already. I figure there's a lot more to learn about plants, at least for me. Maybe I'll stop a famine someday. The god gave his wares away. Goodbye, you three. I'll enjoy seeing what you do with my gifts. Maki smiled and waved, genuinely grateful. But he flipped through the book just to make sure he hadn't been scammed. The pages were soft and creamy, full of diagrams and tantalizing arrangements of runes and descriptions that he suddenly had some ability to read. When he was out of earshot, he said, So they're not all bad. Sounded like he'll spy on us, Oro said. The barbarian lady said, People need to know what this place is like, not just from some legend glorifying it. Why? Said Maki. The woman gave him a stare of deadly seriousness. She waved around the beautiful plaza, where gods and spirits watched them casually and wandered off to spot more mortals showing up to be played with. Then she tapped her book about the gods. Even if this is puffery, it's valuable information, understand? As dangerous as the Calevians were, this one identified the real threats to mankind. Maki shivered, feeling his new tail bristle, and he nodded. Oro said, So we have gold, swords, and books. Should we press our luck? Gold? The woman said. Oh, here, have a coin. I took too many, and they're heavy. She grunted at the weight of it. That pyramid on one side, on the other... She gasped. Maki tried to ignore the luminous beings flittering around them, though he gestured to note that they were being watched. He took out one of his few heavenly coins and looked at the other face. It showed a banquet table bearing a winged urn. The barbarian explained, In Calivia, we honor the vase of souls. It represents how the gods cherish us and preserve us for our next lives. She stopped, glancing up the onlookers. I see, Maki said, though he didn't know the foreign religion. The fact the vase was on a divine feasting table troubled him. The best-known legend of this carnival talks about the beautiful lovers. Guess I know where that visitor spent all of his time. Oro said, We should go back and study that, to get a full picture. Maki looked back wistfully, but he didn't trust himself not to ruin the opportunity here. You, Easterner. Salana, she said. Are we agreed that our people need to see what the great and glorious gods are really like? Definitely, she said. Then look for a way to prove it somehow. The carnival went on around them. A woman with hair like a waterfall tended a board game, petting a griffin beside her. An old man with a mossy beard tried to draw them in with carved wooden trinkets. Maki and the others stared at every attraction. He'd seen a very few of the other human guests, but now they sighted one, who was trying on fine capes at a clothing display. The woman, Solana, went over to him. Hail, where are you from? He had only a loincloth on under the cape, and the green tint to his skin was nothing like Maki had ever heard of. He jabbered nonsense. The god tending the clothes was completely hidden in scarves. It clapped its gloved hands quietly and murmured, Ah, a meeting of your quaint cultures. This man hails from an entirely different continent. Perhaps you'll find the place one day. Maki said, Is he enjoying the carnival? The god relayed the question and laughed at the answer. He says that heaven is most enchanting. How about you three? Would you like the fine cloth of the weaver gods? I ask only that you turn over all of your mortal clothing with its charming scents and styles. Ooh, especially that blood-stained shirt. Maki wore a simple tunic and pants of linen, but he didn't like the god's tone. Can you guess my profession? Ah, you are tailor yourself. The voice went muffled for a moment, as though hiding laughter. Fine work for mortal. For you, perhaps, a spool of dream-spun thread that will make your next creation touch on the glory of heaven. A single heartfelt prayer is all I ask. The god held out a spool whose contents shined like starlight, fit for a king's tailor. Solana said, Would you pay his price for that? Maki hid his feelings. He bowed deeply and said, O weaver god, this mere mortal is grateful for what blessings we receive. May we someday make works half so fine as yours, and may our people fully appreciate the extent of your kindness and generosity. He didn't feel as though he had done anything but utter words, but the god reared up as though taking a deep breath of refreshing air. It presented Maki with a spool, but held it just a little high, so that Maki had to jump to grab it. Most welcome. Now, trade in those rags for something better. Maki turned away to browse the racks, hurt. What he was wearing right now was his own work. Not his best, but still made with care and skill. He selected a sturdy scarlet outfit with a yellow sash, then presented his drab mortal clothes and bowed again. May my humble offering amuse you. Oh, and my fellow mortals would like some way to remember our night here. Is there some sort of painting or self-playing song or the like in this place? The Weaver God looked intrigued as it took Maki's clothes. A cousin of mine, a dream spinner. There, past the god of roast meats, in the purple tent. As they left the clothing stand, Maki teased Oro. I didn't think he was such a fop. He had gotten puffy-sleeved pants in expensive purple. I'm going to sell these, Oro said, sensibly. The Easterner nodded. She looked like a princess in the dress she'd chosen. The meat god was happy to see them, mainly interested in gathering some curious little gods to watch the mortals scarf down grilled ribs from divine cattle. Maki tried to put on an entertaining show if it so amused his audience. The food really was spectacular. He tried asking about the banquets of the gods, and the giggling he got in response made him shiver. He took solace in the god's assurance that this divine meat would make him healthier and stronger than ever before. The three mortals left together and found the dream spinner's tent, full of floating crystal shards. The woman on duty smirked and greeted them, saying, Would you like to dream of this night again and again? Definitely, said Solana. Then take a shard and press it to your forehead, making a memory of your time in heaven. Exactly what Maki hoped for. He did as told, and felt the cold gemstone go hot against his skin. In a moment of vertigo, he relived everything since leaving the tavern. Such a shame you will never see the divine realm again, said the dream god, without sympathy in her smile. A source of endless regret, I'm sure, said Maki. Can I show this to my friends? Oh, certainly. Let them dream and wish. He thanked her, and the other two made their own mementos. They backed away, regroup in an open space between the tents. Oro said, So we're loaded down with gifts. These gods aren't all bad. Maki nodded. The bookseller was the only one to give us something that might help in the long term, not just trinkets to make us wish for more. He sighed. I'm sure there are 100 other things to see. Solana looked beyond the exhibits to the shadows beyond that deadly fence, and many more that are off-limits to us. Oro said, That pyramid over there is where they live, isn't it? Or rule, anyway. She looked at Maki. Maki shrugged. The songs and stories don't mention it. Maybe it's new. I wonder if heaven was always this way, then. Maki said, I'm ready to go home before that cat god comes to bless me some more. Are you prepared to spread word of what we saw? Show others these dreaming gems and tell everyone just how kind the gods are? The woman said, You're not horrible for Westerners. Maybe your leaders will listen to you with the proof you brought back. I'll try to get the attention of mine, offer my dress and so on. There's a neutral trade town, Rudd's Crossing. Maybe sometime soon we can meet there and compare notes. Solana considered this. She said, Midsummer's Day. I'll find a way to reach that town. The three of them watched each other's backs all the way through the fair to the portals that brought them here. They waved politely to the gods that offered them drinks and fun and dubious blessings. Solana went home, giving heaven only a reproachful look and a sigh before vanishing into the violet haze, back to the wicked eastern lands. Then Maki and Oro found their own marker and then reluctantly left heaven and left the gods' realm behind. Back in the world of mere mortals, Maki felt overdressed. He was back in the dark, stinking alley outside his favorite bar that served the poor fare of human cooks. The sky held only the familiar stars. He wore a gleaming sword through his fine sash, and he carried gold coins and a book of spells. Beside him, Oro hefted his bag of money, finding it far lighter than before. Maki fingered the dream crystal he'd taken, sensing that he could relive the memory it held at any time. Then there was that tail tickling against his clothes. That had come with him, too. He said, I think we're supposed to feel bad that it's over. We turned down the holy brothel, said Oro. Maki laughed. I do regret that, but we're not the gods' pets going home with scraps. This is the start of something big. Of telling everyone what jackasses the gods really are? To begin with, said Maki. And after that should be our sky, our plaza of gold and magic. He smiled. Why fight our neighbors when there's richer plunder in heaven? Now walk me home before we get mugged, will you? There's a lot of thinking to do. The men did indeed dream of the gods' carnival, but not with quite the awe and respect the gods had hoped for. This has been a reading of the story Evan's Carnival by Chris Schnee. If you're interested in my work, check it out on Patreon or Amazon. I'll put links below. Thanks for listening. Until next time.